Let's see.
In all the videos of the collapses, explosions can be seen bursting from the building 20 to 30 stories below the demolition wave. Here, 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 here,
I think we get the
all the
idea.
video-
It goes on and on. What are these squibs? Well, we're told by NIST that these are puffs of air which is caused by the building, which doesn't exist up top, pushing down, causing air to come through the elevator shaft, out into the open office plan, and through, somehow, mysteriously, the exact center of these buildings, symmetrically around the buildings, 40 floors or more below the ensuing collapse. Puffs of air. Well, first of all, they're not puffs of air. They're pulverized building materials. And second of all, these explosions can be, you can calculate their velocity because we have the video. It's 100 to 200 feet per second. The puffs of air are not going to create that velocity. Third of all, say that was the elevator over there. The air came down through the elevator. This is an open office plan. This is about 60-foot span. Guess what? The air coming down through there is going to fill the room uniformly and then blow out every window if it has that much pressure, which it probably wouldn't. It wouldn't be a highly focalized ejection at the center point symmetrically around these buildings, and it wouldn't be 40 floors below. Do we have a straight down symmetrical collapse outside the footprint? Yes, 1,400 foot diameter to be exact, with the explosive force on the aluminum cladding, which went the farthest. The debris area was 20 times the area of the footprint of the towers. Here is the plan. Here is the devastated area. I'm going to go back and forth really fast so you can see them. Note the nice rubble pile that Building 7 produced, and then the expansive debris field of the Twin Towers, a completely opposite type of controlled demolition, leaving a smoking crater, not a pile of pancakes. This is a 7-story lobby. About 2 stories, maybe 3 of it, are filled with debris. Where is the rest of the debris? Where are the 110 floors of 20-gauge steel decking with 4 inches of concrete on it, 110 floors, an acre in size, 43,000 square feet per floor? Wouldn't we expect to see 1 or 2 of them down at the bottom, or 50? They couldn't find any steel decking. They couldn't find any trusses. They couldn't find any macroscopic chunks of concrete. It was pulverized to dust, as we'll see. This is what buildings look like when a pancake collapse. Again, from Mexico, a concrete structure fallen in an earthquake. We see stuff at the base of the building. The panels are missing. Tom Patrizio, the guy who brought the panels to the World Trade Center in the 60s, was looking for them as he was working on the demolition. He couldn't find one of them. We'd expect to see maybe 1/8 of the height of the building. We don't. We see about maybe 2%. You can see right through these tree fork columns at the base. Do we have pools of molten metal? Leslie Robertson, structural engineer for the World Trade Center. As of 21 days after the attack, the fires are still burning and molten steel was still running. You have to deal with this. This is the structural engineer of the World Trade Center. When somebody says, NIST says there was no molten metal, no evidence of molten metal, You remind them of this structural engineer on October 5th, 2001 at the National Conference of Structural Engineers. Chief O'Toole says, remember seeing a crane lifting a steel building beam vertically from deep within the catacombs of the ground zero. It was dripping with molten steel. We saw the video from Mark Lazo already talking to us about the molten steel that he found in under all three buildings. Fires burned and molten metal flowed in the pile of ruins still settling beneath my feet. Sarah Atlas. We already saw the previously solidified molten metal. Thermite-induced World Trade Center demolitions would explain the molten metal. Let's take a look. First, from the fire department.
Down below and you'd see molten steel running down the channel rails, like you're in a foundry.
Yeah, like lava.
Like lava.
Like lava flowing through a volcano. That's pretty clear. Now, what does NIST say, the head engineer at NIST, say about the molten metal?
I'm curious about the pool of molten steel that was found in the bottom of the towers.
I am too.
And
Please tell me about it. Have you seen it?
well, not personally, but eyewitnesses there found huge pools of molten steel beneath the towers, and some scientists don't think that the collapse of the building could have melted all that steel. And physics professor analyzed some of the steel, and Stephen Jones, and he found evidence of thermate residue, which would explain how the buildings collapsed by means of pre-planted explosives. So, have you analyzed the steel for any of those residues?
First of all, let's go back to your basic premise that there was a pool of molten steel. I know of absolutely nobody, no eyewitness who said so, nobody who's produced it.
You'd get down below and you'd see molten steel running down the channel rails, like you're in a foundry.
Yeah, like lava.
Like lava.
I'm an architect, not a judge of character. But my personal opinion is that this man is lying through his teeth, and we need to call him on it, and we need a new investigation. Where does this molten metal come from?
An incendiary used by the military, thermite is a compound of iron oxide and aluminum, which when ignited sustains an extreme heat reaction, creating molten iron. In just 2 seconds, thermite can reach temperatures over 4,500 degrees Fahrenheit, quite enough to liquefy steel. This is thermite melting the engine of a car. We know that open-air fires cannot burn hot enough to melt steel, but metal had melted at the base of the towers. The second product of a thermite reaction is aluminum oxide, visible as white smoke. Was thermite used in conjunction with explosives on September 11th? Watch this very bright substance pouring from the 81st floor of the South Tower. And white smoke appeared at the base of the building. Would this be aluminum oxide, the byproduct of a thermite reaction? Appendix C of the FEMA report describes sulfur residues on the World Trade Center steel. The New York Times called this the deepest mystery of all. Sulfur slightly lowers the melting point of iron, and iron oxide and iron sulfide had formed on the surface of the structural steel. Sulfur used with thermite is called thermate, producing even faster results.
Was the molten metal pouring out of the South Tower aluminum from the melted airplane? NIST says yes. This is what molten aluminum looks like. It's silvery. It's not a bright, glowing liquid like molten iron looks like.